Welcome to This Explainer. You know, for generations, that familiar flowing script logo of Johnson & Johnson sat in nurseries and medicine cabinets literally all over the country. It was the ultimate symbol of purity, safety, and most importantly, trust. But what happens when the ultimate family brand shatters from the inside out? Today, we're going to explore a really dramatic juxtaposition: the rise of a revolutionary medical empire and the tragic, scandalous decline of the very dynasty that built it.
So, we have to ask, how did a company that literally built itself on protecting the vulnerable become the defendant in one of the biggest product liability cases in American history? It's just a staggering reversal. And the biggest takeaway here is that the answer doesn't just lie in dusty boardrooms or court documents, it lies in the stark contrast between public purity and absolute private dysfunction. To really understand the fall, we've got to understand the incredible heights from which they fell.
Okay, part one. An empire built on trust, the promise of purity.
This story actually begins right in the aftermath of the American Civil War, in a world where surgery routinely, almost inevitably meant death. But in 1876, a man named Robert Wood Johnson attended the International Medical Congress in Philadelphia. And while he was there, he listened to a British surgeon named Joseph Lister present a highly controversial concept: antiseptic surgery. The whole idea was that sterilizing instruments and dressings could prevent the infections that were killing a massive percentage of patients. And look, while the medical establishment totally scoffed at Lister, Johnson didn't hear in practical theories. He heard a very real way to save lives on a massive scale.
So by 1886, Robert and his two brothers officially founded Johnson & Johnson in New Brunswick, New Jersey. They started out with just 14 employees, and they pioneered ready-to-use sterile surgical dressings sealed up in individual packages. But, of course, they still faced a super skeptical medical community. So what did they do? They essentially pulled off the ultimate 19th century content marketing strategy. They published 85,000 copies of a comprehensive manual on sterile methods and just gave them away for free to doctors all across the country. It was advertising disguised as education, just a brilliant blend of mission and business that laid the absolute foundation of their empire.
Let's fast forward a bit to 1943. Under the leadership of Robert Wood Johnson II, who everyone called the General, he penned what he called our credo. It explicitly stated that the company's first responsibility was to doctors, nurses, patients, and mothers. And stockholders, they came last. That was a wildly revolutionary philosophy for its time, and it acted as this powerful moral compass that guided the company to incredible success. But unfortunately, it was a compass that would completely elude the family's future generations.
Which brings us to part two. The Dark Brothers' legacy. Inheritance without responsibility.
Right here is where we begin to see that parallel story of decay. On one side, you have Robert, the general, who took the family business, built a global healthcare corporation, and authored that famous credo. But on the flip side, you have his younger brother, J. Seward Johnson. Seward grew up in the exact same house, inherited the exact same fortune, but he just kind of drifted through life. He collected wives, allegedly harbored some incredibly dark secrets regarding abuse within his own family, and completely alienated his 6 children. Seward's chaotic, destructive life deeply tainted the family's polished, baby powder soft public image.
And all that dysfunction, it reached a complete fever pitch with a single, staggering number: 42. That's the age gap between the 76-year-old Seward Johnson and his brand new bride, a 34-year-old chambermaid named Barbara Basia Piaseca. While he was still married to his second wife, Seward moved Basia into a luxury apartment, gave her this high-paying gig as an art curator, and married her literally 8 days after his divorce was finalized. Unsurprisingly, not a single one of his 6 kids attended the wedding.
So, when Seward eventually died at age 87, he left his estate entirely to Basia. He completely cut his children out, and what followed was easily one of the ugliest inheritance battles in American history. $24 million. That astronomical figure is just the legal fees the 6 kids spent fighting Basia in a vicious 17-week trial. The courtroom basically became this huge public theater of family dysfunction, airing out every single skeleton, addiction, and betrayal hiding in the Johnson family closet.
In the end, they settled right before the jury went into deliberation: $340 million. That is what Basia walked away with. The kids? They split a fraction of the estate, but they were left with 0 real answers from their father, and those deep, traumatic family wounds were now just out there, exposed for the whole world to see.
Moving on to part 3, the cursed inheritors, wealth without purpose.
It's like this incredible fortune, which was literally built on healing the sick, had essentially morphed into a curse. Check this out. In 1975, 27-year-old Keith Johnson died of a cocaine overdose. Just weeks later, his 23-year-old brother Billy died in a motorcycle crash.
Decades later, in 2010, 30-year-old Casey Johnson, the great-great-granddaughter of the founder, died completely alone in a house with no electricity, her insulin left untaken. Billions of dollars in trust funds couldn't save these heirs from sudden, heartbreaking deaths. It was just a complete and utter void of purpose.
That takes us to part 4. 2 crises, 2 responses, the corporate decay. Over time, you start to see how the company's moral rot perfectly mirrors the tragic downfall of the family itself. Look at 1982. When 7 people died from tampered Tylenol bottles in Chicago, the company actually looked at their credo. They chose principle over profit, pulled 31 million bottles nationwide, spent $100 million, and revolutionized packaging to protect us, the public. But then, look at their response to the modern talc crisis. Instead of transparency, internal documents showed they denied the allegations, hid asbestos test results, targeted vulnerable demographics, and fought liability super aggressively in court. It is just a stunning shift from heroic responsibility to cynical defense equivalent.
The lengths this company went to just to protect its baby powder revenue are, frankly, disturbing. Get this, as early as 1957, tests found asbestos in their talc supply. Between 1972 and 1975, 3 different labs confirmed it, yet the company actively hid those results from the FDA. Even worse, by the mid-2000s, right when health researchers were sounding the alarm about ovarian cancer risks, the company launched these aggressive marketing campaigns specifically targeting African American and Hispanic women just to keep sales up.
And that brings us to this massive, inescapable number, 67,000. That's how many lawsuits the company was staring down by 2025 from women who had trusted their products for decades only to develop cancer or mesothelioma. The legal liability was beyond catastrophic, and the company was desperate for a way out.
So how do you fight something that catastrophic? Well, they used a highly controversial strategy called the Texas Two-Step. Step 1, they created a shell subsidiary called LTL Management. Step 2, they transferred every ounce of their massive talc liabilities over to the shell company. Step 3, they had that shell company file for bankruptcy. It was this incredibly cold, calculated legal maneuver designed entirely to shield the parent corporation from massive payouts and completely avoid facing the victims in open court. Federal courts actually rejected the maneuver multiple times, but it really showcased a company willing to fight tooth and nail against accountability.
Finally, Section 5. What remains of the dynasty? The final cost. When we step back and look at the wreckage of this century-old dynasty, we're hit with a really profound truth. Values are not inherited. Each generation must choose whether to honor them or abandon them. Think about it. The Johnson brothers built an empire to fight infection and save lives. The general wrote this beautiful, guiding credo. But a credo on a wall means absolutely nothing if the actions of the inheritors don't match it. The family's fortune funded medical miracles, sure, but it also funded catastrophic family warfare and endless legal defenses.
So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. What do you do when doing the right thing costs way more than you're willing to pay? Back in 1886, they answered that by betting it all on sterile surgery. In 1982, they answered it by pulling Tylenol from the shelves. But in the modern era, hiding asbestos and letting a family rot from the inside out, well, they answered it very differently. The true price of a corporate conscience and a family legacy is paid in choices, day after day.